taking a look at this for me? Yeah, I need an extra set of eyes. Yeah, kind of right in this area is what I'm looking at. What does that look like to you? Does that look like a fossil, or I just have a fancy rock? I can't tell. Yeah, it almost looks a little helix, doesn't it? It's kind of got that shell-like structure there. I guess it could be root, depending on the position of the species when, well, yeah, could be cover. But it's mostly barren on that side, but this is kind of, maybe I can help you. There you go, is that a little better? This is kind of the point of interest here. There's actually a couple spots here on this other side, I think. Where was that? Oh, give me 1 second, sorry. Yeah, there we go. See that? Yeah, right there. It's right in there. Yeah, it's almost like another spot there, huh? Yeah, sorry, I dug this up earlier this afternoon. I just needed just a bit of advice. I don't know what to do with it, whether to toss it or send it back to the lab. You gotta be careful lugging around too many pieces of rock that don't end up being fossils. It gets kind of heavy. Well, could be a partial. Probably ought to keep it just in case. Thanks. My name's Duncan. What's your name? It's nice to meet you. My family owns a fossil lab out in Pewter City. I'm sure you've heard of it. No? No, yeah, that's just a small town out in the Kanto region. Can't miss it if you're in those parts, but I guess if you're not in those parts, then it's pretty easy to miss, so no worries. I'm just gonna get a few measurements here. Just give me a second. Yeah, well, I gotta say, if I do have a fossil here, might be on the smaller side, but we'll see. Anyway, I'm out here looking for fossils. Word is this place is full of them, on account that this whole area used to be at the bottom of a lake in ancient times. I'm sure you've heard the legends of the old Salt Lake here in Salt Flat City. Well, there wasn't really any city here before, but now there is, and these ruins are the main attraction. So, I'm here looking for them. Been excavating for a few days now, and haven't really found any concrete evidence. Just a lot of fossils like this one. Looks promising, but no guarantees until I send it back to the boys at the lab. But I did dig up a pretty good chunk of base rock down in the lower levels earlier today. Usually have a high concentration of fossils in them if you get lucky, so could use a little bit of help. Use an extra hand. You got the time? Really? Alright. Well, if you play your cards right, I might even let you keep one if we find one. Alright, let's get to work. Well, here it is. Beautiful, isn't it? Chunks like this usually have a high concentration of fossils in them, so hopefully we get a bit lucky and find a couple. This entire town was actually formed when these ruins were discovered after the lake dried up. A cataclysm a long time ago caused it to drain down, flood out the port, down the mountain, Sunnyport. Well, it's called Sunken Port now, but that's a story for another time. I steer clear of that place as much as possible. So, now that we got the little history lesson out of the way, let's go ahead and dive into this thing. I'll show you how it's done on this first one. Then I might let you have a crack at it. chip away at the rock. These portions here on the exterior, they're not actually fossils, they're just imprints of previous rocks that were placed over the top that had fossils in them, so the real fossils will be inside this chunk. I wedged this out of the base rock down in one of the lower chambers, but don't tell anybody because hopefully I get to go back and get some more. These helix fossils are really amazing, even for someone like you who isn't an expert on fossils. Just the idea of a ammonite existing all those years ago in the wild is pretty cool if you ask me. So let's go ahead. We're just going to be really gentle. We don't want to damage any of the fossils down below. We just want to make sure that we can chip away as much of the rock without getting too much into that real fossil material. When we hit a fossil, hopefully we know before we get too aggressive. I like to do just a little bit of a twisting motion. That way it kind of plunges into the stone, but kind of flips that dirt out to the side. So, once you've cleared a good amount, we want to go ahead and remove that rubble and get it out of the way so that we can see kind of what we're working with here. As you can see, we've got kind of a nice little base of digging here that we can keep just kind of chipping away at. Any guesses on what kind of fossil we're going to find? Yeah, you never really know. It can be just about anything, if anything at all. Fossils are rare, of course, so don't get your hopes up too much. I'd hate to see you disappointed on your first dig. So, what are you doing in Salt Flat City anyway? I know you said you are a Pokemon trainer, but are you just passing through, or are you battling the gym here? What's up? Really? You already took on the gym? Well, congratulations. Oh. Well, sorry. Didn't know, obviously, but I'm sure you'll get them next time. Hey, maybe I'll catch a fossil, or I guess dig up a fossil and get yourself a new Pokemon down the road. One can only hope. Alright, I'm gonna try to get a solid kind of circle going here, and then go from there. That was a big chunk there. Alright, let's go ahead and clear that rubble. Gotta kind of watch your eyes in this portion because that dust can get a little bit dense once you start getting some of that rubble removed. Yeah, look at that. We're starting to really make a good indention there. So what I want to do is I just want to get a nice circle chipped out here. And then if we don't find anything, we'll work our way out towards the edge. So let's go ahead and deepen this one here. Yeah, can I tell you a little bit of a fossils. I was there probably a month or two. They send the rookies out to the most sparse areas first, just to kind of clean up any scraps that could be left behind, but usually you don't find anything. So I'm a couple months in, I'm just about ready to quit and head home. I finally break my pickaxe and I figure, well, that's it, I'm out. And as I'm heading out the door, I trip and I look back, and just barely sticking out, I see what ends up being a dome fossil. Yep. That's when I learned sometimes the fossils find you, not the other way around. Just gotta stay patient. Put your heart in the right place. Yeah, that Kabuto is still my favorite Pokemon to this day. I wouldn't dare evolve it. We're too close at this point. I like it just the way it is anyway. Alright. We're making good progress here. Let's just keep getting a good dig going. As you can hear, once we kind of get into some of that more dense material, usually, that's a good sign. That's where a lot of the fossils end up lodged for a long, long time. I thought we were lucky and found something right there, but not yet. Let's go ahead and get some of this out of the way. Alright. And resuming. You hear that? We've got something here. Yeah, right here. And right here could be the two pieces of the same fossil, but we could be lucky and have two separate fossils. You never know. So what we're gonna have to do is we're gonna have to make our way around the edge. We gotta be really careful and not damage that fossil too much. Hopefully not at all. You need a very good intact specimen in order to get an accurate revival of the Pokemon that has its DNA stored inside. So let's go ahead and chip down, and we're going to make our way down to that fossil. And we're just going to try to dig out the perimeter. Alright, let's clear some of this rubble very gently. Yeah, there we are. We're getting there. You excited? It's not often that on your first excavation you get a genuine fossil on your hands. Okay, so I'm just going to try to cut around that fossil the least amount of trauma, the better. Alright, I'm going to take out a bit more of this. That way we might be able to gently pry it from its resting place. So it looks like we're going to have to remove just a bit more of the surrounding debris. Yeah, that's definitely two separate fossils, which is really exciting. Which means you and I are both going to get our hands on one today, which is fantastic. I always enjoy sharing this kind of experience with someone who is eager to learn and patient. Alright. Okay, still no movement yet. It looks like we're going to have to dig it out just a bit more. Nice and gently. We're going to try to make as much of a hole around this fossil as possible so that we can try to free it. Okay. I think we are getting close. Hopefully we start getting a bit of movement in that fossil. Look at that. Now this is the most exciting part. Let's go ahead and just remove just a bit more of that debris. And there we are, my friend. Look at this. What do we have here? Let's go ahead and chip away a bit more of that residual debris. Very gently. We don't want to damage the fossil and compromise the DNA. We want you to be able to resurrect this fossil, of course. Well, any guesses so far? It definitely is going to be a fragment, but hopefully you still have enough DNA in there to get a full revival. Just let me clean it up just a little bit more, and I'll go ahead and give you my expert opinion. Of course, I'm sure you have figured out by now, the fossils don't exactly look like they do in the textbooks, do they? Especially these fragments like this, you never really get a clear view until you get it in the computer system. Well, here it is. Looks to me, if I had to guess, let me get a small measurement here. Alright, just over 2.5. About 3/4 there. Well, judging by this area here is a bit of a spiral, and it kind of closes in a shell-like formation here. Now, that could mean that this is indeed a helix fossil, similar to these formations here, which would mean that if you get really lucky and it ends up having enough DNA to be revived, you'd have yourself a nice ammonite. But I have seen things like this in the past that look shell-like just based on some of the stones and rocks and junk that's kind of encased around it, and it ends up being a claw fossil, which you could kind of see. This could be the end of a claw, almost like the fingernail of sorts, which, of course, would eventually get you an anorith. So, I think it could go either way. There could be, obviously, situations where I'm completely off base, but I'm usually not that wrong. But I think it's a safe bet that it might be one of those two. But that's kind of the fun of it. It could be a complete surprise, so I guess we'll see. So I'm going to let you take this one with you as kind of a just thanks for tagging along and kind of let me do a little bit of talking while I do a little bit of digging. It's usually one or the other. So make sure you take good care of this and get it to one of those labs, and make sure you put my trainer number in your Pokegear. Let me know what Pokemon you end up with. Alright? Okay, here, put this in your pack. Don't lose it. Alright, I'm gonna let you go ahead and get on your way. This could be a while, so I wouldn't want to keep you. I like to take my time, hopefully get a good fossil here. Alright, let's get you on your way. Well, I appreciate the help. It's always nice to have a extra set of digging hands alongside, so it's been fun. If you want to get that fossil revived, I think the closest lab to here is the one out there on Fern Island. Yeah, there's a ship that passes that way from most of the ports in this region, so just take your pick when you got the time. Alright? Well, I gotta get back to work here. Hopefully get something good, so it was nice meeting you. Yeah, see ya.